20 minutes.
Good morning, or good afternoon already. I'm Trey Hagstrom. So we're going to go over the Sail Club safety recommendations guidelines. It constitutes some of the policy of the club here. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, obviously, but I do want to highlight a couple things out here about contacts for rescue and help. My experiences in the past have led that if you need immediate assistance out here from a rescue boat, you're on your own. This lake is basically a self-rescue lake. You need to be prepared to take care of yourself. And if you need assistance when you're out here, when you're not racing, you can call the State Patrol. And I've gave you a phone number here. You can dial direct to them. That'll get you right into somebody there. Because State Patrol, ironically, because it's a state, I guess, contacts the rangers here. Trying to get a hold of a ranger in this park who's on the water is not that easy. You can always use your radio and call on channel 16, which they monitor in the admin building back over here, not very well. So if there's nobody in the office, probably not listening. If the rangers are out on the water, they're listening. I've only been able to contact rangers once out here on radio and have them respond. You can call the park and phone, and then you can go into voicemail. And good luck. I don't know when that's going to happen. And of course, the admin office is still closed, so you don't even really know if anybody's in there sitting by the phone. So just keep that available. Put that number in your phone. So if you need immediate assistance, if there's some sort of accident or something going on, you can get rangers down here. They will contact. There are rangers around, but sometimes they're doing land duty here. They're not at the water. They'll hustle up if there's some big deal going on. If there's injuries or something else going on, then you can go 911. You can also call Douglas County or Jefferson County directly if you need it. Douglas is probably a little faster getting in here. And as you may recall, the center line of the lake is the dividing line between Douglas and Jefferson County. So Pirates only in Jefferson, Douglas we're safe over here, I guess. Yeah. I do know the State Patrol things work because I personally used it out here a couple times. We even called in one night to stop a dog fight, get rangers over on the activity at the dock. Under state park safety requirements, this is the standard stuff on here. I just wanted to make a note on here about MOB recovery stuff. If like on the J30 that we have a life sling out there. I know Randy Stafford's got one on his boat. Some other people may have a life sling or something available. U.S. Sailing is moving more towards a using a line rescue, not trying to get your boat right up to the person who's in the water if somebody fell off your boat. So whereas ASA, we're still teaching, trying to get back as close as we can. I would suggest that you rig a line if you're not going to have a life sling, because they're not super expensive, but they're not cheap either. If you're not going to carry a life sling mounted on your boat, you know, at least get a life jacket, a floating ring or something, and tie a line to it, because you can heave that line or drag it around. You can do a water ski recovery where you just come around somebody and get a line to them so you can retrieve them and get them back to your boat. That's an initial startup. I'm carrying a throw bag for anybody who's been rafting. You can get a throw bag. It's basically a 50-foot line in a bag where you just pitch the line out and it'll float. And then same thing, you can circle around and get somebody back to your boat. But if you're out here in a big wind, and we'll talk about that in just a second, you know, trying to get your boat close and get active there to get somebody out of the water. You need to have more than just sailing by with a boat hook. Race safety before the start. Michael covered some of this stuff. I just want to point out that the water's still pretty cold out here. The lake level is also, we're still down just over 3 feet here. So you need to be aware that there are areas in this lake that will catch your keel if you're not paying attention. The odds of us getting up over 12 feet this year, I don't think are very high. So we need to pay attention to where the lake levels are and know what's happening in the water, because water temperature can be a significant issue if you're trying to get somebody back out of the lake. We also talked about VHF radios. So it's mandatory in the SIs to carry a radio. We use channel 68 here for communications. And I'm going to drop down here to the race safety after start thing there. Be aware of what you're using when you're calling on your radio. The normal thing is to call a pan and explain who you are, where you are, what your situation is, and what kind of assistance you need, and if necessary, a number of people and injuries on your boat. So that we had a couple summers ago where we had 2 big wind blowouts here. And I've experienced it here as well, and many of you others as well. It's a nice, lovely day, and then all of a sudden, here comes 25 knots of wind screaming across the lake, and there's no warning. Okay, we had a big blowout here coming off the cliffs here. It was a very exciting night. Unfortunately, my boat was slower, so I got to watch everybody else get knocked down mostly so I was able to prepare. But sometimes you don't get that. I was over in Cherry Creek last summer, and we had this little squall line, didn't look that big, but checking on some of the wind things later on, it was about 28. And with a boat of brand new sailors, it was a little more exciting than we had hoped for, or maybe that they'd hoped for. But we got through it all right. So because we start paying attention and then be aware of how to handle your boat when you get into big winds. In the event that your boat is disabled or something, though, and you're calling for help, it's important that everybody out here racing remembers the rule number 1 in the RSS is that a boat or competitor shall give all possible assistance and help to any person or vessel in danger. That means anytime you see anything out here, it's okay to drop out and and help these people, because we don't want any other incidences out here in the lake. 3 people drowned in this lake that I know of last year. We had a tubing accident over here where the boat stalled. They couldn't get the guy out of the water. He just sank. We had a kid walk in off the beach to go swimming down at Catfish Flats, disappeared. And a woman fell off a paddleboard here, I guess, last fall. So wearing a life jacket, and when you see paddleboarders out here, so watching a video somewhere, I think they were in Alaska, and there was a guy on a stand-up paddleboard out there in shorts, no life jacket on apparently. I can't even imagine being on that water. You need to be aware of what's going on. One of the things that here is, as Michael was also alluding to, we call it heads in the boat. It's very easy out here, especially when you're racing, to be looking what's going on either in your boat, because there's some foul line or some accident, something's going on that creates a situation. All of a sudden everybody's starting focusing on what's happening inside the boat and not paying close attention to what's going on outside of the boat. Michael explained it as in regards to racing, and of course that's critical at the race startup and mark roundings. But out here we've got wakeboard boats. We've got these tubing boats who invariably drop their tuber in front of us during racing. They're cutting through fleets and stuff, so there's a lot of activity going on. In the south end, if we're going down towards 6, we're going to have paddle boarders all over the place down there. And sometimes kayaks, even had somebody swimming out there. At 2, the middle channel here seems to attract stuff besides fishing and belly boats and other people out here wandering around on the lake. It really requires a great deal of attention, and as soon as the weather warms up and all the power boats come back on the lake, we're going to have a lot of activity. A lot of these wakeboard boats are not paying real close attention, and they're unwilling to move to give right away to sailors. If you, this is just a side thing, I'm interested in trying to get some people who would, if anybody has connections with the state legislature or higher levels of Department of Parks and Wildlife, like see me at some point. I've been really, really interested in trying to get something to get education available for people say, on the water here in Colorado. We don't know how many accidents. There's no readily available reporting on accidents and drownings at the various lakes here. And there's no education requirement unless you're like 16 and you're 14 to 16 range. You know, we're not educating a lot of people as to what they're supposed to be doing out here. Wake, the abuse of power boats on wake to anybody out here, not just sailboaters, is continue to be a big problem. And we need to start thinking about how we could get more proactive to educate some of these people to be responsible about their wake. That's a side note. If you do see that, though, I have reported wake issues. Normally, people going at the no wake speeds to the rangers. So you could, if you see that happening, feel free to try and radio them in. Okay. Any questions on general safety stuff? I have a sheet here called, says drowning doesn't look like drowning. This guy, Mario Vitone, is a retired rescue Coast Guard swimmer, and he's got some excellent material. It's basically soundings online. You can take a look at this handout here. And basically, the essence of this article is real simple. When people fall in the water and they're drowning, they're not doing it like they did in the movies or in the cartoons where they're waving their arms and yelling for help. They are struggling to try and stay above the water. And he tells a story here about a father or couple who was in the ocean playing, splashing around or whatever, and all of a sudden this lifeguard comes charging down the beach, blows right by him, grabs their 10-year-old daughter and drags her up the beach. And they're like, what's going on? She's drowning. What? And they didn't know it. It's so easy. We had a 3-year-old drown right off that beach here on July 4th, about 6 years ago, right next to the father. It's a real serious issue that we need to pay attention to here so we don't have accidents like we had from Annette Smith 20-some years ago. And when these big weather events happen, you know, one of the #1 rules is staying on the boat, but we need to be working with your crew and paying attention to how you're going to stay on the boat when the big winds happen. If you're short-handed, I would suggest also that you may rig a downhaul. If you've got hank sails that you can't furl, you might think about using a downhaul on your head sail so you don't have to be crawling around on the deck when you get a big wind and you're out of control. So you can manage your boat. That would be one alternative. You can even use it on mainsails. But there are some things to do. So when you're training your crew, when you're reviewing new people coming on your boat to race with you, you know, take some time to walk through those situations. Like, here's what we're going to do when the wind hits. This is where our life jackets are, or put them on, better yet, and what you're going to do to be prepared in case we have clear air disturbance. Any questions, comments? Right. Back to you, Gary.